The Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. Number 3. Questions. One day, Prefect Wei held a large vegetarian feast on behalf of the master. When the feast was over, the prefect invited the master to ascend the dais to give a sermon. The government staff, scholars, and commoners respectfully bowed once again and asked, "It was truly inconceivable, wonderful for us to hear your reverence explain the Dharma. But now we have some slight doubts. We wish that, in your great compassion, you would make a special effort to explain these for us." The master said, "If you have doubts, then ask, and I will explain them for you." Lord Wei asked, "The doctrine your reverence has preached, it must be that of great Master Bodhidharma." The master said, "So it is." Wei asked, "I have heard that when Bodhidharma first taught Emperor Wu of the Liang, the emperor asked, 'Throughout my entire life I have constructed monasteries, had monks ordained, and held vegetarian feasts. What merit is there in these?' Bodhidharma said, 'In fact, these are without merit.' Wei said, 'Your disciple does not understand the principle of this, and I ask you to explain it for me.' The master said, 'In fact, these are without merit. Do not doubt the words of the former sage. Emperor Wu was heterodox in mind and did not understand the correct Dharma. To build monasteries, have monks ordained, and hold vegetarian feasts is to seek blessings. But one cannot convert blessings into merit. Merit exists within the Dharmakaya, not within the cultivation of blessings." The master also said, "Seeing the nature is effort, and universal sameness is virtue. To be without stagnation in successive moments of thought, to always see the fundamental nature, to possess the wondrous functioning of the true and actual, this is called merit. To be humble in the mind within is effort. To practice ritual without is virtue. For the self-nature to establish the myriad dharmas is effort. For the mind essence to transcend thoughts is virtue. To not transcend the self-natures is effort. For one's responsive functioning to be undefiled is virtue. If you would seek merit and the Dharmakaya, just rely on this, and you will create true merit. Those who cultivate merit must be without disparagement in their minds, but always practice respect for all. Those whose minds always disparage others will not eradicate their own false views of the self and are themselves without effort. Those who consider the self-natures to be empty and false are themselves without virtue. It is only because they consider themselves to be great that they always disparage everyone else. Good friends, to be without any suspension of one's continuous thoughts of inner humility, etc., is effort. For the mind to practice universal directness is virtue. To cultivate the nature oneself is effort. To cultivate the body oneself is virtue. Good friends, merit must be seen within the self-natures. It cannot be sought in donations and offerings. Therefore, blessings and merit are different. Emperor Wu did not understand the truth of this. It was not that our Patriarch Bodhidharma was wrong. Prefect Wei asked further, "Your disciple always sees monks and lay people practicing mindfulness of the Buddha Amitabha and wishing for rebirth in the Western paradise. Please explain this. Are they reborn there or not? Please eliminate my doubts." The master said, "Your lordship, listen well. I will explain this for you. When the world-honored one was in Sravasti, he taught about the Western paradise in order to entice the sentient beings of Sravasti to practice Buddhism. The text of the scripture is very clear in saying that the Western paradise is, quote, not far from here. If you wish to discuss it, then the 10,000s and 8,000s of li from here to the Pure Land are the 10 evils and 8 heterodoxies within the body. This is the explanation of the Pure Land as distant. The explanation of it as distant is done on behalf of those with inferior capacities, while the explanation of it as close is for those of superior capacities. Although there are two types of people, there are not two different dharmas. Although deluded and enlightened people are different, it is only that there is slow and fast in seeing. The deluded person recites the Buddha's name and seeks for rebirth in that other location, while the enlightened person purifies his mind. Therefore the Buddha said, quote, "As the mind is purified, so is the Buddha land purified." Close quote. Your Lordship, you are a person of the East. If only your mind is pure, you will be without transgression. But persons of the West are impure of mind and are in error. When a person of the East commits a transgression, he may recite the Buddha's name and seek rebirth in the Western land. But when a person of the West commits a transgression, in what country should he seek rebirth when reciting the Buddha's name? Stupid ordinary people do not comprehend their self-natures, and they do not recognize that the Pure Land is within their own bodies. Whether you wish for East or West, the enlightened person is the same in either location. Therefore the Buddha said, quote, "Always in joyful repose wherever one is." Close quote. Your Lordship, just have your mind ground be without that which is not good, and the Western paradise will not be far off. If you harbor that which is not good in your mind, it will be impossible to attain rebirth in the Western paradise by reciting the Buddha's name. I exhort you now, good friends, to first eliminate the 10 evils is to go the 10,000 li. To later eliminate the 8 heterodoxies is to pass beyond the 8,000 li. Seeing the nature in successive moments of thought and always practicing universal directness is to gain a vision of Amitabha in the snap of a finger. Your Lordship, just practice the 10 types of good. Why would you want to be reborn in the Pure Land? If you do not eradicate the 10 types of evil from your minds, what Buddha will come to escort you to the Western paradise? If you are enlightened to the sudden Dharma of birthlessness, seeing the Western paradise is a matter of a mere instant. If you recite the Buddha's name and seek rebirth in the Pure Land without being enlightened, how will you ever be able to travel such a long road? I will move the Western paradise for you in an instant, so you will be able to see it right in front of you. Do you all want to see it or not? Those in the assembly all bowed their heads to the ground and said, "If we could see it here, how could we then want to be reborn there? We ask that in your reverence's compassion you manifest the Western paradise for us all to see." The Master said, "All of you in this great assembly understand that the very form bodies of people in this world are the city walls of the Pure Land. Your eyes, ears, nose, and tongue are the gates of the Pure Land. Externally, you have 5 gates, and within is the gate of the sensory mind. The mind is the ground, and the nature is the king. The king resides on the mind ground, and the nature exists just as a king exists. When the nature goes, the king is absent. When the nature is present, the body and mind continue. When the nature departs, the body disintegrates. Buddha acts within the nature. Don't look for it outside your bodies. When one is deluded as to the self-nature, one is a sentient being. But when one realizes the self-nature, one is a Buddha. Compassion is Avalokiteshvara. Joy and equanimity are Mahastama Prapta. The ability to purify is Sakyamuni, and universal directness is Amitabha. The self is Sumaru. Desire is the ocean's water, and the afflictions are the waves. The poisons are the evil dragons, the falseness are the ghosts and spirits, the enervating defilements are the fishes, lust and anger are the hells, and stupidity is the animals. Good friends, if you always practice the 10 types of good, you will go to heaven. By eliminating the false conception of the self, Sumaru will fall. By destroying desire, the ocean's waters will dry up. By eliminating the afflictions, the waves will be extinguished. By eradicating the poisons, the fishes will be extirpated. The Tathagata, who has realized the nature in his own mind ground, releases a great refulgence and illuminates the 6 gates without. Its purity can destroy all the heavens of the 6 desires. By illuminating the self-nature within, the 3 poisons are eliminated, and all the transgressions leading to the hells are dissolved in an instant. Clearly penetrating within and without, it is no different from the Western paradise. If you do not cultivate in this fashion, how could you ever arrive there? When those in the great assembly heard this explanation, they all saw their natures. They all bowed and sighed. How excellent! They cried out, "We wish that all the sentient beings throughout the Dharmadhatu could all become enlightened instantaneously." The Master said, "Good friends, if you wish to cultivate this practice, you may do so either as a householder or in a monastery. Householders who are able to practice this are like those persons of the East whose minds harbor good. Those in the monastery who do not cultivate it are like those people of the West whose minds harbor evil. It is only that the mind should be pure. Then it is the Western paradise of the self-nature." Lord Wei asked further, "How can householders cultivate this practice? I hope you will teach us this." The Master said, "I will recite a formless verse for this great assembly. Just cultivate according to this, doing exactly as if you were always with me. If you do not cultivate according to this, what benefit would it be to take the tonsure and leave home to become a monk?" The verse goes, "With the mind universally the same, why labor to maintain the precepts? With practice direct, what use is it to cultivate dhyana? Gratitude is to be filial in support of one's parents. Righteousness is to have sympathy for those above and below. Self-subordination is to honor the lowly and the familiar. Forbearance is not to approve of the various evils. If one is able to rub sticks to create a fire, the red lotus blossom will certainly grow from the mud. That which causes the mouth suffering is good medicine. That which offends the ears is loyal speech. By reforming transgressions, one will necessarily generate wisdom. To defend shortcomings within one's mind is not wise. In one's daily actions, one must always practice the dissemination of benefit for others. Accomplishing enlightenment does not depend on donating money. Bodhi should only be sought for in the mind. Why belabor seeking for the mysterious externally? If you hear this explanation and practice accordingly, the Western paradise is right in front of you." The Master said further, "Good friends, you should all practice according to this verse. See your own natures and directly accomplish the enlightenment of Buddhahood. I cannot wait any longer, and you should all disperse now. I am returning to Cao Chi. If anyone here has doubts, then come and ask me about them." At that time, the prefect and government staff, as well as all the good men and faithful women in the assembly, all attained enlightenment, and accepted and respectfully practiced Huineng's teaching with conviction.